What's going on, everybody? C4 here. Welcome back to the channel, and today is part of your Saturday doubleheader. We have the continuation of our 2027 round 32-team mock draft series with the number 3 team on the clock, the Detroit Lions. And before we get into the official mock draft, we need to kind of look at what Detroit did during free agency to get to where they are pre-draft, and taking a look at the roster on the offensive side of things. Here's how it's kind of shaping up. In terms of acquisitions, not too crazy, nothing too extreme. They were able to re-sign Danny Amendola. You look at the skill position players, they're really good. I mean, you get a healthy Matt Stafford, Kerryon Johnson, Scarborough actually filled in as a nice little bit of power back. I think you could add another running back in here, but Kenny Galladay is one of the better young, underrated wide receivers. He's definitely a top 10 wide receiver, I think, in the NFL. Marvin Jones still offers a lot. You got TJ Hawkinson, a guy that you definitely hope can develop into a top 10 tight end for the future. As far as free agency is concerned, though, they do have a big acquisition by paying a lot of money, $20 million guaranteed for Big V. Hal Vaitai, I can tell you as a Philadelphia Eagles fan, is he a solid swing tackle? Yeah. Is he a starting player? He's an average starting player, but the fact that they paid him pretty ridiculous money, it was not a good contract. But you're not getting a bad player. Don't act like you paid a bunch of money and you're getting a bad player. You're getting an okay player that you just severely overpaid for. That being said, you know, he's solid. And I think you can get a guy that can play guard, he can play tackle. I'm assuming he's going to be the starting right tackle because they moved on from Rick Wagner, and they paid him as such. Now, flipping to the defense, obviously the big news is the trading of a Darius Slay, fringe top 5 corner in the NFL. Didn't really play like it last year, but over the last, we'll say, 3 years for the Detroit Lions, he's definitely been a top 5 corner. They got a 3 and a 5 for a guy that didn't want to be there. They signed Desmond Trufant, who was released from the Atlanta Falcons. That's a solid play for sure. You got Coleman here, one of the better nickels in the NFL. But clearly at pick 3, they're going to be looking to assess and address that cornerback spot. The front 4, obviously it's like a multiple defense, but Trey Flowers, they brought in Danny Shelton from the New England Patriots, and Deshaun Hand are solid. You could also throw in Aquara and move Deshaun Hand inside if they go to a 4-3 look. The linebacking core, they got Jamie Collins coming over from the New England Patriots, Davis and Tavai inside, and they got Jones on the outside. Obviously, this is just an assumed depth chart. Things could move around. Linebacking core is solid, though, and Jamie Collins is coming off a big year for New England. And the fact that Jamie Collins succeeded in New England, he's one of those players that have gone other places, hasn't played so well, but when he goes back to New England, he dominates. I feel like I'd feel kind of optimistic that you're going to get similar production from him here in Detroit. They traded for Daron Harmon, who will most likely start at strong safety. You got Tracy Walker at free. I think he's one of the more underrated free safeties in the National Football League. So when you're looking at the Detroit Lions, you're looking at strengths, you're looking at weaknesses. I think this is going to be a draft that they either go on offensive line. You could get a younger wide receiver thrown in the mix here, but ultimately I think this is going to be a defensive draft for the Detroit Lions. They hired Matt Patricia because of his defensive background. In reality, this defense has been failing and falling short. So I think this is going to be his opportunity to slowly rebuild this defense how he wants it, and I have a lot of draft picks that will be addressing the defensive side of the ball. So without further ado, let's get into the 7-round mock draft 2020 edition of the Detroit Lions. So at pick number 3 in the first round, I have the Detroit Lions selecting Jeff Okudah, cornerback from Ohio State, 6'1", 200 pounds. He's the number 1 corner in this class by a decent amount. Might have some of the best footwork I've ever seen. You might say, footwork, what does that matter? It obviously it's everything. It's everything. It's how you get under breaks. It's how you shadow wide receivers. It's a good indication of your agility amongst just a bunch of other reasons. During the drills at the combine, he literally looked like he wasn't on the same level as anyone else when he's going through the drills that you chop your feet up, and he looked really damn good. And he's a perfect man cover corner to replace Darius Slay, who in his own right is one of the best man cover corners in the NFL. 2019 first team Big Ten for Okudah. He's a home run pick here for the Detroit Lions, given the Darius Slay trade. He is a shutdown type player. Put him on an island as a rookie type player. And I think going long-term, Desmond Trufant is not a long-term option, but he's a solid placeholder. You pair that with Okudah, you put Coleman in the slot, you get Tracy Walker to take the next step and elevate his game at free safety. You get the stability of a veteran in Daron Harmon. This secondary is going to be pretty solid. And that's kind of hard to say when you get rid of, the best corner maybe they've ever had. I'm trying to think of like great corners that the Detroit Lions. And on the top of my head, since I've been a fan, Darius Slay's been their best cornerback. And trying to replace that, there's not too many times you enter an offseason losing someone like that and saying that you're going to be fine. on the other way out and on the other end. But being able to get Jeff Okudah at pick 3, that's kind of going to be the case for the Detroit Lions. So that's a home run pick. I don't think there's any other option unless somehow, some way, I don't think it's ridiculous to think maybe a team like the Washington Redskins might take a Jeff Okudah, and then the Detroit Lions are going to be like, oh, okay, sure, we'll take Chase Young. So either way, Detroit is in a phenomenal position here at pick 3 to get really anyone that can be a game changer on the defensive side of the ball. Going to the second round at pick 35, I'm selecting Ross Blacklock, defensive tackle from TCU, 6'4", his weight fluctuates, he's around 300 pounds, 295, 305, somewhere in that range. He's an explosive interior defensive lineman that can close the pocket down and affect the pass rush as a rookie right away. Again, I feel like he's versatile enough to fit whatever front that Matt Patricia's going to be running on design plays. He can flex out to defensive end, he can flex inside to be defensive tackle, just another beast and body to put on that defensive line rotation. Detroit needs to find another legit D tackle. Obviously, they've moved on from Snacks Harrison. They moved on from A'Shawn Robinson. So getting another guy like Blacklock, who personally, I haven't watched any tape on him. He is the biggest name that I just haven't seen any tape on. So I'm trusting the scouting reports. I'm trusting the evaluation from 3-4 different sources. I don't know why. He literally, in my notes, it's just, I literally have all these positive things. We need to find this. He could be the third, a 3 technique and a 4-3. He could be the defensive end and a 3-4. Also note, for whatever reason, have not scouted this guy yet. So I'm going to have to get on some tape here. But I did see him at the combine. He looked, 4'9" for a defensive, interior guy. That's not that bad from an athletic profile standpoint. Going to the third round pick, 67, a guy that I've watched a lot of tape on. And I was selecting Darrell Taylor, edge rusher from Tennessee, 6'4", 260 pounds. As much as I hate Tennessee, actually I don't hate Tennessee because they're not good anymore. They're kind of a meme. But right now I would watch Tennessee play because for whatever reason I usually get 2 to 3 Tennessee games here in Canada a year. Darrell Taylor has been standing out. I think I made a couple tweets during the Tennessee Vol games. I was like, man, this Taylor guy looks really, really good. How is he not getting a lot of draft time? But right now I think he is very underrated. He is a scheme versatile edge rusher, can play in everywhere in a Matt Patricia defense. Again, one of the more underrated edge rushers I think in this class. Brings in SEC production, 21 TFLs, 16.5 sacks over the last 2 years on a pretty average to bad Tennessee Vols defense. And I think he can already, set the edge versus run. He's an established run defender that is going to be able to grow and develop his pass rushing moves as he comes along. So I'm more so looking at that linebacking core for the Detroit Lions. You look at the guys coming off the edge. Christian Jones. You got a Jamie Collins. Jamie Collins almost 30. Getting in some nice youth there in Darrell Taylor, I think would be a great move for the Detroit Lions in the third round. Now, they have a second third-round pick that they acquired in the Darius Slay trade, and I'm selecting Robert Hunt, offensive guard from Louisiana Lafayette. I think when you look at the Detroit Lions offense, I think the interior of the offensive line, they lost Graham Glasgow, that's going to be a spot they want to try to assess during the draft. I think when you look at Robert Hunt, he's one of the better pure run blockers in the draft class. They ran the ball a lot at Louisiana. I think he has upside to become a complete guard. He's versatile. He played guard and tackle at Louisiana. So in case you can't pigeonhole him right away, it could be that sixth lineman, that guy that could step in as a rotational guy when guys get gassed, if there's an injury, which is value within itself. I think he's a chance to push, though, for that starting guard spot. Maybe looking at that right guard spot. That's kind of open season right now for Detroit. But they are a team that need to get nastier. They need to get meaner up front. And I think a guy like Robert Hunt goes a long way for setting the tone for how Matt Patricia should find an identity for his offense. Run the goddamn ball. Establish a run. You get a little smash and dash with Kerryon Johnson and a little Bo Scarborough. We have him actually bringing in another power back a little bit later in this mock draft. But I think getting a guy like Robert Hunt, underrated, fix that guard spot. Going to the fourth round, pick 109. I'm selecting QUINTEZ CEPHUS, wide receiver from Wisconsin, 6'1", 210. We need to get out of the way. There are some red flags, some out the field stuff. I think it was a charge that eventually got dismissed, but as long as that's clear, he's going to be on a lot of teams' draft boards. He's another guy that I think it was Jeff Okudah, and there's a couple other dudes. They ask questions every single year. Who's the toughest player you went up against? And last year, just the general position player that everyone said was the toughest was Max Sharping, who value pick day 2, day 3 for the Houston Texans at guard tackle, ended up being a starter for them. This year, the one common name that came up on either side of the ball was Jeff Okudah and other guys saying the toughest wide receiver to go up against was QUINTEZ CEPHUS. He's a powerful slot wide receiver, reminds me a lot of Anquan Bolden. Now, his 40-yard dash time of a 4.73 is not that great, but he's not an outside guy. He's not a burner. I wasn't expecting to run fast. That's still not that great of a time. You never want to see any player on offense really at that kind of speed. But I mean, like Jarvis Landry was unbelievably slow, and he's gone on to be one of the better slot wide receivers in the NFL. I think when you look at CEPHUS, Chris route runner, he's power after the yards after catch. If you want to Google something, back in the day, we used to be able to put in, clips and stuff like this from college football and not get demonetized right away. But just Google QUINTEZ CEPHUS, Troy Dye, Oregon. It was from their bowl game. He ran him over. Troy Dye, one of the better, highly regarded inside linebackers in this year's draft class. He got trucked bad by CEPHUS in that game. And CEPHUS is another guy, run blocks well. He does everything that you want from a dirty, grindy type wide receiver. I think he's an excellent successor to Danny Amendola. I got Danny Amendola in a 1 year. But I think going forward, going for the future of the slot position for the Detroit Lions could start and end with QUINTEZ CEPHUS. Going to the 5th round, pick 149, either selecting Justin STRNAD, linebacker from Wake Forest, 6'3", 235, a sideline-to-sideline linebacker who can offer something on special teams right away as a rookie as he bulks up a little bit. Needs to get a little bit more bulkier, kind of lean. A lot of scouting reports have him saying he's like pretty much a big safety, but there's room to grow. Long limbs, can pack on probably 10, 15 pounds, give or take. So right now, comes on the Detroit line, special team contributor, linebacker 6 or 7 for a team that, is Jarrett, they got a lot of linebackers, but I don't think they have a lot of answers right now at the linebacking spot. Jarrett Davis, they got Kabinda, they brought in Ragland on a 1 year. You got Elijah Lee coming in, Steve Long. Who are these guys, man? You got to get some youth in, and I think a guy like STRNAD could be that in the 5th round. Second 5th round pick, 166, either selecting A.J. Dillon, running back from Boston College, 6 feet tall, 240 pounds, power back who tested a lot better than expected. The combine, 4.53, 41-inch vertical, showed off tremendous explosion, very productive runner at Boston College, 4,300 yards and 38 touchdowns in his career. Now, everyone's thinking he's got to move to fullback. I think he could do a little bit of fullback, which could offer some added value for the Detroit Lions. I just think he's another power back because we saw last year with Detroit when Johnson went out with injury, Bo Scarborough was kind of effective. So let's add more of that. You got to assume Johnson, Scarborough, probably Ty Johnson also make the roster, but that 4th running back spot could be up for grabs. Wes Hillis, I would like to bring in a guy like A.J. Dillon, high character guy too, that should be intriguing for Matt Patricia. Going to the 6th round, pick 182. The Detroit Lions selecting James Morgan, quarterback, Florida International, 6'4", 215 pounds, developmental quarterback to sit behind Matt Stafford. Prototypical size, is a pocket passer style QB. However, I'd be a little bit conscientious about the 57% completion percentage in college. He has 8,300 passing yards, 64 touchdowns to 32 interceptions. He's an all-out developmental quarterback. When you look at the quarterbacks on the Lions roster, unless they like Blau, who's, wasn't horrific when he had to play a little bit. They brought in Chase Daniel, but there's no one beyond Matt Stafford. So I think a guy in the 6th round like James Morgan that does have some ceiling, does have some traits that you kind of hope that can be developed under a Darrell Bevell. It's well with the risk there in the 6th round. And then their final pick, 235 in the 7th round. I'm selecting J.R. Reed, strong safety from Georgia, 6'1", 190. Prototypical strong safety, can make plays on the run right away. Special teams ability early on. 2019 first team SEC, over 200 tackles in his career at Georgia. Just a productive special teamer. I think he'd come on and be, a 4th, 5th safety, somewhere in that range for the Detroit Lions behind Harmon, Will Harris, Tracy Walker, and J. Ron Curse. Maybe compete a little bit with Miles Killebrew. So there you go, guys. That is the 7th-round 2020 NFL mock draft for the Detroit Lions. As always, if you agree or disagree with any of the picks you saw today, let me know in the comment section below. If it's your first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button, smash the like button if you enjoyed, and until next time, it's C4 saying peace out.